International news broadcast by WorldView Today. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching WorldView Today with the latest updates on global affairs. Tensions in the Middle East are escalating, with the United States signaling a hardline stance against Iran's nuclear ambitions. Meanwhile, in Eastern Europe, Ukraine considers sweeping military reforms, and Germany announces bold support for Kyiv. Reports also suggest possible direct talks between Russia and Ukraine in Ankara. In Asia, North Korea unveils a massive warship, signaling its naval ambitions. Stay with us as we unpack these developments and more. U.S. signals robust action as Iran bolsters defenses. In a striking statement, U.S. Defense Secretary Hegseth emphasized that while diplomacy remains the priority, Washington is prepared to act decisively if negotiations with Iran falter. Speaking on April 14th, Secretary Hegseth reiterated President Donald Trump's commitment to resolving the nuclear issue peacefully, but warned that alternative measures, including the use of force, are on the table if talks stall. The United States seeks a peaceful resolution, but we will not hesitate to act if necessary, Hegseth stated, underscoring a calculated balance between de-escalation and strength. According to WorldView Today sources, this rhetoric has intensified pressure on Iran, which maintains its right to develop nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. Iran has responded by ramping up its military presence in its southern regions, deploying advanced mid- and long-range air defense systems. Local reports indicate the deployment of the RAS air defense system, likened to Russia's Buk M2, with a 50-kilometer range. Equipped with T-2 missiles, the RAS can intercept aircraft, cruise missiles, and drones, even in complex electronic warfare environments. This strategic move fortifies key industrial and military sites, including ports and oil refineries, signaling Iran's readiness for any potential U.S. preemptive strike. Analysts warn that while U.S. pressure may push Iran toward negotiations, missteps could trigger retaliation with global implications. The international community watches closely, aware that a single miscalculation could ignite a broader conflict. Ukraine eyes Israel-inspired military reforms. Turning to Eastern Europe, Ukraine is contemplating significant military changes amid ongoing hostilities. In an interview with Info, Colonel Pavais, Deputy Chief of Staff to the Ukrainian president, advocated for mandatory conscription for women, drawing inspiration from Israel's model. If citizens benefit from state resources, they must serve, even for a minimum term, Pavais argued, emphasizing that modern militaries require diverse roles filled by both men and women. He proposed a one-year mandatory service to bolster national defense. This push comes as Ukraine grapples with sustaining its war effort. Pavais stressed the need for a societal shift to embrace conscription as a civic duty, a move that could reshape Ukraine's military landscape. Germany signals major support for Ukraine. In a surprising shift, Germany's incoming chancellor, RB, announced Berlin's readiness to supply Ukraine with Taurus cruise missiles, capable of striking targets 500 kilometers away, including Crimea. Set to assume office on May 6th, RB described the move as essential to shift Ukraine from a defensive to an offensive posture. This is about changing the dynamics of the conflict, he said, breaking from Germany's historically cautious stance to avoid escalating tensions with Moscow. The decision has sparked heated debate. While Ukraine views the Taurus as a game-changer, 64% of Germans oppose the transfer, fearing escalation, according to a recent poll. Nonetheless, RB's Christian Democratic Union plans to boost defense spending by $200 billion, partly to support Ukraine, signaling a broader European alignment with France and the UK, which have provided Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles. Russia-Ukraine talks in Ankara. Reports from WorldView Today indicate that Russian and Ukrainian delegations may hold direct talks in Ankara next week to discuss Black Sea security, a critical flashpoint in the ongoing conflict. Sources suggest meetings are slated for Tuesday and Wednesday at Turkey's naval headquarters. However, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha dismissed these reports as false, stating no talks are scheduled. The conflicting narratives highlight the delicate nature of diplomatic efforts amid heightened tensions. Trump's global gambit? A new world order? In a broader geopolitical context, WorldView Today has learned of a strategic map published by Newsweek, outlining how global powers may be reshaping influence from Europe to the Indo-Pacific. Former President Donald Trump's outreach to Russian President Vladimir Putin in March, coupled with Saudi-led talks, reflects Washington's push for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Proposals include a 30-day truce and an agreement to halt Black Sea attacks, though fighting persists. Analysts draw parallels to the 1945 Yalta Conference, warning that Ukraine's fate may be decided without its input, much like Europe's post-World War II division. This risks sidelining Ukraine and Europe, said Vassala Janina of the European Council on Foreign Relations. Professor Stefan Wolf of the University of Birmingham likened Trump's approach to the 1938 Munich Agreement, suggesting a global redivision of spheres of influence among superpowers like the US and China. Russia's role remains uncertain. Newsweek notes Moscow may either assert independence or deepen ties with Beijing, especially as Trump escalates a trade war with China, imposing tariffs up to 145%. This could strain Russia's economic leverage, pushing it closer to China's orbit. North Korea's naval leap forward in Asia. Satellite imagery obtained by WorldView Today reveals North Korea constructing a colossal warship at its Nampo shipyard, potentially the largest in its history. Estimated at 140 meters, the vessel, possibly a guided missile destroyer, dwarfs existing North Korean ships and rivals U.S. Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. Analysts Joseph Pudas Jr. and Jennifer June from the Center for Strategic and International Studies suggest it may feature vertical launch systems for land and sea targets. This development underscores Pyongyang's ambition to modernize its navy despite UN sanctions. North Korea's growing ties with Russia since the Ukraine conflict may be easing these restrictions, enabling access to critical technology and materials. U.S. cancels hypersonic ambitions. In a setback for U.S. military innovation, the Navy has terminated its Hypersonic Air-Launched Offensive Anti-Surface Warfare (HALO) program, designed to deliver high-speed, long-range strike capabilities. Citing budget constraints and technical challenges, Captain Grand Flander announced the decision, marking a retreat from the U.S.'s hypersonic race with China and Russia. The Air Force's ARRW program also faced cancellation, reflecting a strategic pivot toward proven systems like the long-range anti-ship missile, ALRASM. Indonesia's judicial scandal in Indonesia, a corruption scandal, has rocked the judiciary. 3 judges were arrested for allegedly accepting bribes to acquit 3 palm oil giants, Wamba Group, Busimas Group, and Pamata H Group, in a 2022 export fraud case. Prosecutor H. Sagara revealed that $3.57 million was funneled to secure favorable rulings, exposing deep-seated graft in a nation that supplies 60% of the world's palm oil. Pennsylvania governor's residence attacked. In the U.S., Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence was set ablaze in an apparent arson attack on April 12th. No injuries were reported, but the incident has heightened security concerns for the prominent Democrat, viewed as a potential 2028 presidential contender. Ecuador's election victory in Ecuador, President Daniel Noboa secured a landslide re-election, defeating leftist challenger Lucia González by over 1 million votes. Despite González's claims of fraud, electoral authorities confirmed Noboa's 55.8% victory, cementing his dominance in Ecuadorian politics. Cultural spotlight: Poland's Palm Sunday. Finally, in Poland, vibrant Palm Sunday celebrations marked the start of Easter. Villagers in Lye crafted elaborate palm fronds, some reaching several meters, for a colorful procession and competition, blending tradition with community spirit. That concludes tonight's broadcast. Thank you for joining WorldView today. Stay informed, and we'll see you tomorrow.